you don't want to out of the way. Yeah, as I said in the second part, you will be able to follow along a bit. We're setting up like an example of the database tool that we're using. You basically just need a Linux machine. If it's Debian based, that makes it easy. Otherwise, you should be able to get it to work too if you know a little bit about Linux. So just to prepare you a bit, and I will send you a link to a poll system. Oops. Quickly open that. So I will have two questions to ask during the presentation, and we'll use an external tool because I was not sure how to get the Zoom polls working or how that should work out. So you can access the link already if you like, but it's not yet started. So I'll bring it up when it's necessary. Yeah. So maybe quickly about me. I introduced myself yesterday already, but I thought it would be nice to let you know who I am in a few additional words. My name is Sam, as you might know already, but my real long big name is Samuel von Stachelski, but I'm never called like that over here in Asia, so Sam is perfectly fine. I'm 29 years old, and I'm a software developer, working as a software developer since 6 years. The first 3 years I worked in applied research in University of Applied Sciences. And since now 3 years, I think, or a little bit more than 3 years, I'm professionally developing software for Christian mission. Before I did some kind of volunteer work and stuff, but it was always centered around database, all that I've done in that context. So also in relation to the title of the talk. I'm living in Chiang Mai in Thailand. Now I have been living here for 3 years, and in case you're wondering, yes, it's a little bit later here, and yesterday it got very late night, 4 o'clock in the morning, so I hope I don't have too sleepy of a voice today. I still feel a little bit dizzy, but I think it will be fine. So. Yeah, I work for basxSoftware, which you might have heard already, or a few at least. basxSoftware, we have a company in Switzerland and now the one in Thailand, and we also have an association, and it sounds maybe like an awful lot, but it's just because of structural or legal and organizational reasons that we have this kind of setup. So, and Bea just yesterday coined the term the basxSoftware network, I think. So I guess in the future I'll just say I'm part of the basxSoftware network. So yeah, we're not too many people, but we're dedicated people, I think. Yeah, so now that's now the good point to jump over to the question or to the poll application, because I like to know a little bit about the audience, like what kind of people am I talking to, like mostly programmers or like normal office workers. And so it would be nice if you could go to the website, or you can also open it in the app. And I will start it now, and you should see now the website changing to like a thing where you can poll and make a choice and submit that. And it would be nice if you could participate in that. You can also scan the QR code, but actually I'll keep this one open. So yeah, so actually yesterday I saw we have quite a few more developers than we had in the past, I think. So I think that's very encouraging. Having developers as well at ICCM. Okay, so we got quite a bunch of IT people. I guess that's nice. Those who want might be able to follow the example in the second part. Okay, and everybody who's working in a different field, you might take the idea or the message back to your database manager or whoever. So yeah, okay, that looks good. That's good. A lot of developers. I like that. That's great. Okay, with that out of the way, let's get to basxConnect. Again, the title, you heard it before. It's in short or in long, it's an open source database framework for non-profit organization. And yeah, I think this really sounds boring, and a lot of the work around that is kind of boring. So what we try to do with basxConnect, I think, is take away part of that boredom, or hide away the things that always have to be done again and again, and making the whole thing a little bit more exciting. So I try to cheer you up a little bit for the coming few minutes. Yeah, I like this Hilbert one. You might read it as well, because that's that's like a real life situation. That's not a joke, to some degree at least. Yeah, so what color you want that database? Well, like personally, I like light colors, like SQLite colors, but that's different different opinions on the subject. Well, yeah, so basxConnect. Let me say a few, like 3 bullet points, what it is or what it does, what we think about if you say the name of that framework. Well, first, it's a minimal CRM-like database for contact and relationship management. That's just we very consciously say minimal. You'll see that in the second point, because we think a lot about extending it and changing it. Software changes, but we have to provide initial versions. I mean, just only for screenshots and things like that. We need to have like a bare setup. Yeah, so I think we draw a lot of ideas from existing CRM or non-profit CRM systems. Yeah, so this is this is a screenshot from our data model. So it's not too big. The right half is mostly only revisioning tables. The left side is just to show you, like, it's really small, held small at the moment. Not too much to it, but designed to grow depending on the needs. Yeah, so what else is basxConnect? basxConnect wants to provide like a consistent user experience, and an interface which is based on kind of not a self-baked design language. We really want to have something that's that is, well, to some degree, I think, appealing to the user, or that offers a nice experience for the user. As we heard before in the keynote, our solutions are not about projects and products, but about people and processes. And so I think a well-designed user interface is part of that. Yeah, we use a design system. Yeah, that's it. Carbon design system, which is a professionally developed design system, design language, and an implementation in different JavaScript frameworks and stuff like that. So, but the point is that there has many decisions been made which help us to provide a consistent interface, and with that consistent experience, yeah, we also have a designer on the team who helps us a lot with designing or thinking about better experience. So I think it's worth to mention that point, because or at least until a few years in the past, a lot of open source projects had a call to be not very user friendly, and I think we actively want not to have the call. Or yeah, it's not about being pretty or like easy, but it's about being consistent and usable and being a good tool for the user. Yeah. So, and last but not least, basxConnect is designed with extensibility in mind. I would even say that's a major point, because we see that all organizations have different workflows. It starts with just different database fields, but it's also about workflows and policies and permissions. And I think a tool, a framework, a database framework should just be easy to address these differences. And we know that we will encounter them. So changes to the code or to the framework should not be something that's a burden. So I think that's at least, I mean, I'm a developer, so obviously that's the most important point for me. I think our designer would maybe say the user experience is the most important part of the project, but that's depending on your opinion a bit too, maybe. Yeah, okay, right. So what I wanted to say, yeah, we care about the developers as well. So about the users and about the developers. Now I already hear the questions coming up, but nobody has yet written in the chat, so that's good. Why does the world need another database framework? I mean, I just found on Google this kind of sheet of this diagram with all the different database solutions. And that's true. There's many things out already. There's like in all different kinds and forms, cloud, self-hosted, open source, whatnot. So I want to give a few words why we think there's a need for something better, or better maybe what are the issues that other solutions that we looked at were not able to fulfill. And there are 5 points which I find which were important that the solution can provide, because that's needed in the projects that we do, that's needed everywhere, and I think in a lot of other projects as well. And the first point is web-based, not because web is fancy, but because web, meaning HTML and CSS, give us a more or less consistent UI toolkit that is multi-platform and that is free and is in general well understood. A lot of programmers know how to use that UI toolkit. And the second one, the whole networking stack is basically defined and also well understood, like things like caching and authentication and encryption. I think that's why you want to have, if you have a multi-user tool, if you want to have it web-based, you can have it as accessible over the internet or only locally, so you get all these options. Second part, as I mentioned before, extensibility is really core. That's something that often in many frameworks, or let's say in many products that I see, I think is an afterthought. So you build a product and then the hooks for extension will be put in it afterwards to some degree. And I think that we want to have something where this is start, or where the whole idea starts, with that in mind. Next one is open source. Again, I think open source not because it's hype or because it's like cool or something, but one of the things that especially non-profits and missions and even normal companies would ask is like about vendor lock-in. And if your product is not open source, then your client is basically locked into your solution. Even with open source, that can happen, of course, if you have very difficult non-standard code and tools. But still, we try to also use a lot of open source projects, like we call it standing on the shoulders of giants. So like of long living open source projects which are stable and have good documentation and support. So I think that prevents a lot of these vendor lock-in fears, or can help mitigating that. And it's, yeah, I think it's anyway a good concept anyway. And the last 2 parts, good user experience, which some tools do have and some tools do not have. I think we really want to keep that in mind. And then the last one, I don't know, maybe you didn't ever hear about the term DX. I just discovered it like yesterday that it exists, but it describes developer experience, which I find a very nice term, because as I mentioned, I'm a developer and many of you are, as you've seen before. So like people who create frameworks and products should also care about the experience of the developers, because in the end, like, the developer is the one who actually adds the change that you want to do that helps your organization. So if we have a better developer experience, we can have I think better solutions built for people, right? So yeah, and sometimes programmers forget that other programmers are going to use the product, and yeah, included there, of course. But I think we can do better there. So yeah, like so that these these 5 points are like what the things that that I would like to focus on when I think about a database framework. And let's quickly compare or describe a few points or a few problem points or pain points with existing solutions that we encounter again and again. Oh, just by the way, if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I will try to address them. That's why we have the window over here in my fantastic window manager. So feel free to ask something. I will try to answer. Okay, so problems with existing solutions. I've talked here like very broadly on like things that that we have experienced with our CD, CRM, Drupal, WordPress, ERP-Next, Udo, maybe also Salesforce to some degree. And I think there's quite a bit more. There's no way that you can, I think that you as a single person or developer or company can test all the frameworks that there are. But this is just our share, and I think the patterns repeat. The first one that cuts off a lot of products or projects or frameworks is that they are not focusing on non-profit tasks and workflows. I think especially ERP solutions, we have a bunch of them that are open source, that are free, but or like let's also take Salesforce to it. It just you might have a non-profit module that you can add, but it's really basic. It's just like adding donors and maybe donations. But the solutions that really focus on non-profit things are in general standalone solutions, I would say, and not generic database solutions. So that really cuts away a lot of solutions away. I mean, like I think somebody asked me like, what was that? Why, or we discussed why don't we take ERP-Next and add a non-profit module to it or take the existing one? But then the question arises, why take the whole elephant, but we just use like the left toe or something like that, and then we add like and make a giraffe out of the left toe or something like that. So that's a bit of reasoning behind it. Okay, next point is a lot of solutions try to provide a complete product. And again, as we heard before, we should not make projects and products, but what people and processes are. No, joke aside. The problem with a finished product is that it will never fit completely fit to a single organization, especially if you talk about something that's a little bit more than 10 people. I mean, I think starting with 20, 30 people in the office, there's just no product that can that can bring all the solutions or quirks that you have in your organization. So you need to adjust it, and some products that just like add a bunch and tons of features and more features until they cover everything, but then it's a user interface mess, user experience mess, because there are way too many features. Yeah, and I think that's a real problem with things that are designed as finished products. So I want to say basxConnect is not a product, it's a framework. Yeah, I think we discussed that in the team, and now I'm making it public, I guess. The next one is closed source and cloud services. They have their own problems, and I think vendor locking problems are sometimes overstated, but I think they're real world problems, because more than once I encountered projects where we had to take data out of the system, and it was just not possible or very difficult. So that's that. Then bad user experience. I think that's actually really true for open source products sometimes, but even for commercially developed solutions, especially if they have too many features. Yeah, and bad developer experience. I would say personally that's almost in all projects. I think where I could see exceptions are maybe Drupal 7 and WordPress, but these two I don't know too much. So maybe that's why I think they have a little bit better developer experience. But a lot of the other tools I think have a pretty bad developer experience. So yeah, that's our problem. So
Sam, there's a question in the chat behind your small window.
Oh, okay, yeah. Thanks.
You can minimize your preview if you don't want it, or put it somewhere else.
Okay. Well, maybe like that. Okay. Wix. So you mean the website builder, right? Is that correct? I think so. I think I understood Wix to be mostly a website builder, and I mean I would say the big problem with Wix is a vendor lock-in. It's a cloud-based service. And actually, what was that, Wix, or there's another big one, right? Yeah. So again, I think okay. I think it's similar is true for like let's say Microsoft Navision, SAP, Salesforce, Wix. If you have very commercially developed products, they often come with very vendor lock-in tools as well. So not only the data or the technology, but also for developers locking them into the technology. So I think it's Wix, where I had to write a small website extension once, and that you had to use their kind of special JavaScript library, and you were not allowed to use standard vanilla JavaScript for a lot of things, and that's I think that's kind of locking again. Which I find difficult, especially for the developers. So I think most cloud services are horrible for developers to change. I mean, you have, yeah, they're down for small changes, but not like small changes and extensions. But if you want to really work on it, you'll either have to be a certified kind of in their program, or you have to be or you have to buy the additional features. So, but I think, I mean, what Wix is great for building websites, especially for end users. If somebody asks me to build a website for them, and I have the time, I don't feel like it, I ask them, do you know Wix? And I'll give them an introduction. So, but maybe I'm talking about the completely wrong Wix here, but I think it's that. Okay, so before you all like end up like that, like listening to some guy speaking on Zoom, I think would like to get a little bit of the hands-on. And what we will do now is to set up a demo project, which is totally bare bone and just comes with the very default models. But just to give you an idea how the interface looks like and where we roughly are, and where you would start from in case you would think about using basxConnect in your own project. So for that, I'll head over to the command line, and you can follow me. I'll change here to my directory where I'll be working in, and I need to remove that one. So we'll really start from 0 here. First thing we need is to clone our demo repository. I'll just paste the link in a moment. Let's github.com basxSoftware association and basxConnect demo. And in case it works, I'll paste the link. Okay, worked. So, okay. In case you want to clone the repository as well, feel free to do it now. If you, for information, in case you're following, and if you're on Windows, you might want to try the Linux subsystem for Windows. I think that could work pretty well as well. Otherwise, a VM or just your developer notebook with Linux would be fine, I guess. So here we are. Let's change to our demo directory. Okay, I added here a small make file, but don't worry, there's nothing with compilation going on here. This is just to organize small scripts a little bit in one file, and in the end, so we can just call make and then quick start Debian. This works with anything that has apt apt or apt as their package management system, and we'll basically just install the Python dependency. So yeah, and what this will do is basically create or set up the whole development environment that is required for a Python project to run, because our basxConnect project is based on Python. So there are a few steps that need to be done, but they can be completely automated. So just call quick start Debian. If you're using something else, just open the makefile and you should be able to figure out what to call. There's also a more extensive script for production setup provided in one of the repositories, which Timothy has written, and that should actually also automatically work on different distributions. This one I just actually added for this presentation, so I don't need to type in all the commands. The work, yeah, the link does work. There's a question, does the link also work on the Mac? And you can access the repository, but if you want to follow on the Mac, then I'm not sure, because Python on the Mac, I have no idea how that works and how you would install that.
Python is not the issue, but the apt-get commands are probably going to fail. Yeah,
no, but yeah, sure, but the apt-get command, they can be commented out. They're only for getting the Python dependencies. So it's basically Python virtual environment and the Python dev libraries. But if you do a standard Python installation on Mac, I think you should have them. The point is just Debian does something weird and doesn't include these two packages, which are always needed for Python development in the standard Python package. So you have to install them separately. But most people, I guess, will already have them installed. So if you ever have done something Python. So here we're putting in like a dependencies, and now just right here we said the database is set up and populated with all the initial stuff. There is a lot of it is coming from Django packages. Django is the web framework we're using, and we will create a admin user with a password admin. Okay, so we're done. So I think if your Python setup is done correctly, this script should basically be no problem at all. Otherwise, the contents of the scripts are not too hard to parse. Okay, now here we see the IP addresses which you will need to access the thing in the browser. That's just for your convenience, so you can copy paste it. And we also have a user admin with the password admin, also for your convenience. And then we just type make run server. And I want to mention again, I want to emphasize this is on a completely empty environment. So I tested this setup to run on a Debian live system, booting from a USB stick, and it should also work. So it should really be dependencies should really be contained. Oh, here more questions. I'm asking. Okay, Kubuntu. Yeah, Kubuntu should be great, I think. Okay. About Python on Mac. Yeah. I think I could provide you with some information about that, but I need to take a look at it first. Okay, so I copied over here one of my IP addresses. Well, you generally would use localhost, of course, but if you're inside the VM, then use one of the IPs. If you're inside the VM, localhost will not really help you. Okay, and it works great. Now that's the login interface, and we just type in admin, and we'll have a small tour. Yeah, so here we start, we get the list of all persons. Initially, you'll just have like a initial entry for your organization, and you can go here. You have a few fields. You can have per people active and inactive. You have a number. You can set what type your organization, your person is. You have different types. Then you have kind of general information for a legal person. This one here is now a legal person, and we could say basic software. Okay, but I won't fill in the thing. But anyway, just to give you a quick overview, you can add multiple addresses, phone numbers of different types, email, and so this thing is in constant change a bit, this interface, but it just gives you an idea how it looks like and what we're adding. Safety. Okay. So we could also add new person, and here is one of the first well thought through or well discussed problems of deduplication. So we thought, how do we address the problem of duplicate entries when entering new things, and what we added is like an extra screen that you can start typing for a person. So if I want to enter basics, oh, okay, yeah, actually, so this, oops. So basics should now come up. So there's a problem in my search backend, I guess. So what will affect, I would say. Anyway, we can continue in case we discovered there are no duplicates here. The framework is really making the assumption that we basically have three different kind of person that are required in this kind of database: natural person, legal person, person association, and of course you could add new types, but I think a lot of the functionality will be around these three, because these are the ones that are, with these three you can build almost anything. The natural person is like natural person, like legal person, companies, organizations, and person association is just the rest, that is like groups or households or things like that. So right now, natural person, or let's just call him hello world, because there's so many developers here. And we are in the city of city and country. Okay. Azerbaijan, or maybe Thailand is nice. Okay. Okay. So yeah, that's basically it. Preview and complete. Okay, and here we are. We get now a slightly different screen for the person, for a natural person, because you have things like date of birth and title. Yeah, okay, there's already German localization in there. Yeah. So I think I will not go more into details. We have more things like settings, like you can set your terms, how you want to, like the drop-down menus, what kind of information you want to have there. Also, like what types of relationships you want to have, like husband. So it's okay. Okay, so we can add relationship types, describing in both ways, and that's the very most basic thing about it. So we have people, and we can set relationships on them. And the idea is that you take now this and you go where you need to go, in a sense, by adding models and user interface components in the code. Okay, so yeah, that's roughly it. So that I wanted to present in that way. Now the next thing, what's Homebrew? Yeah, okay. Homebrew, I think, is a package manager for Mac, and it might work to install Python through Homebrew, but I heard that it can produce problems as well. But somebody is recommending it, so maybe you take a shot. Right. Okay. So now for the rest of the time, I have 20 minutes left. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Good. Great. So if you could go back to the poll site again, and I just would like get the impression. What are your thoughts? What, like, if you would continue, or if you would to know more about it, in which direction, what kind of information would you like to have? Is it do you want to know more how to customize, how you would customize the framework in your own setup, or maybe what's the technology stack for deployment and the productive system, because there's a little bit more to it than what we just did tool-wise. Do you want to know more about UI and design system, or do you want to know, oh, people are interested in the weather. Good.
I've got a question.
Yep, go ahead.
Have you been thinking about providing a Docker Hub image?
Actually, for the project that we have right now, we were talking about setting up with a Docker image. I think we could. Maybe it's not the worst idea. I personally, I don't really work with Docker images because in a lot of cases it gives me more overhead. But I think for just people to try it out, that might be a very good idea. Yeah, I agree. I think we might. I don't know. Maybe Timo wants to do that or somebody.
I'm taking notes here.
You're taking notes. Okay, it's great. Yeah, I think that's actually a good idea. I didn't think about that. But yeah, for testing, developing, even maybe if you want to have it as a permanent setup and you know how to do it, it might be a good solution. Okay. So okay, that's okay. Yeah, let's just go for other questions right now first. Are there more questions to it? I will give a few words about customizing the framework in a second, but I think we don't have time to really take a look at the code or get into coding. So, are there any other questions in your mind? What you can do with it? Or I mean, if you're interested in how it's done code-wise, there is GitHub, and sadly, our documentation is not really at all where it should be. The whole project kind of, or the whole idea, we have a lot of things that we want to do, and I think a lot of things should be finished until the end of this year. Things like documentation and testing and having a more stable framework API and things like that. Oh, okay, yeah, so Homebrew has been disadvised because of security issues. Oh, it has been banned. Okay, that's strong. Okay.
Sam,
yeah.
What's the potential for basxConnect for expansion into something that can also manage events? So we run conferences, and we also have a number of people in essentially a CRM. Currently, I'm aiming to develop something that will handle all of that in one unit. What potential do you see for doing that here?
Yeah, I think for something like that would be a very good. It would be a very good case. I have to say it takes a developer because basxConnect is a framework, so you need to have somebody who knows a little bit, at least a little bit about programming, maybe. But it should definitely be able to do exactly something like that. Adding events. So like for one example is we're just right now adding a donation part to it, which is adding like another thing around, just like event would be. I think, you know, to be completely honest, if you would just start right now, you might even be okay with CVCRM if it fulfills your needs, just as an example, because let's go like that. CVCRM is much more feature complete, but if you have to do some customization or your features are not covered with for example, CVCRM, then I would say if you anyway plan to develop or to write custom modules, then I think basxConnect is really good, has a really good case to take a look at it. But you might wait a little bit for documentation if you're not familiar with Python. For example code, we plan to add quite a bit of example code, so new developers have it easy to jump into and to write their own modules and extensions. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, let me say something here.
Sure.
Yeah, we would actually love to have other people joining into the project, other organizations, and actually doing their own things inside this basxConnect world. We are very open for more requirements.
Yeah,
developers.
and okay, yeah. So maybe I was a little bit too cautious, but I think I would also add, like, if you like partake in like the GitHub development or contact us through email or whatever means, I think we're very ready to help people to find out if they can do the job and if they have problems to set things up. So, and we also welcome, of course, contributions. I think, yeah, I encourage you to take a look at it.
Thanks.
So any other questions? Oh, let me quickly open GitHub. Our GitHub page, where is it? Here. So right now, if you type in basx.org, oh yeah, maybe I should show that. Basx.org is where our website will be. Right now, it's just a redirect to the GitHub page, but we are a site is in development where we will add a little bit better structured information than just GitHub repos. But here you can see our repositories, and what I wanted to do is, oh no, I can't do that. I wanted to show an example of the customization, but that's actually in a non-public repository. So let me quickly go there.
Am I the only one who gets some background noise from someone?
No, yeah, somebody has tried it.
I've got it as well.
Oh, now it's done. Yeah, so I think, okay, if you have any questions popping up your head, just shout them out. And for the rest of the time, I think I'll give a few words about customizations. So the base of this framework is the Django web framework itself, a well-established framework which is very developer friendly. I would say offers a very good developer experience. That's why I basically choose it or preferred it. And the extension based on the app concept of Django. So one Django website or project consists of a bunch of apps, and if you want to add a new functionality, then you would write the new Django app, so to say. And we have, and that's also how you would use it on basxConnect. So we try to align or to go with the Django concepts where it makes sense, because it's well documented and it has a long history. So we can rely on a lot of things there. So in this project we made our own customization kind of app or an extension for basxConnect. There's a Django command to create a skeleton for you. So, but we'll just jump in here, and here we have. So what we did, we added a few additional models. These Django models translate one-to-one to SQL tables. So that's I think also very helpful for debugging and stuff like that. So you have like additional information for a person. It's like a foreign key to the person, and then you want to have additional drop-down options, categories, reject reasons, and this is field for testing for me. So you'd write that these kind of new models that you need in a new app, the standard Django way. And depending then on what you need, or if you need to do new URLs and new views or pages on your app, you would add them in the URLs and in the views files. That's also pretty Django standard, how to add new pages and things to your application. Yeah, there's not too much here. But I think the interesting part, which we have not fleshed out finally yet, but which we are getting good on track, I think, is customizing parts of the user interface. It's like this. I'll take this one. This is a good example. We have one screen which has the person settings, which you can see over here. Settings, person settings. If we want to add like another table because we need some new kind of category type, or we need like the preferred meal of a person, we could go in here and just basically grab existing layout and write a new layout part and just extend the existing layout with our new objects or interfaces. And yeah, I can't go too far in here, but a lot of the things, how we generate the user interface, is coming with that thought that we can click in basically into the DOM, if you know the document object module in the DOM tree, to add new things to the user interface or to change existing things, like in some way similar to how you would do it in JavaScript, but on the server side. So that's great. Yeah, so I think I don't want to talk too long. I remember last year at ITCM Asia, I did a similar talk, but only about only Django-based databases, and I put in a lot of coding and everything, and we filled like 80 minutes with people just staring at me writing code or doing stuff, and a few people got quite something out of it, but most of them didn't. So I think I kept this talk a little bit less code heavy. Yeah, I think with that, I would say thank you. Visit basx.org, or just get in touch with us if you need anything that you have questions, or asking questions are still free here at basx, right, Beat? I think for you too. So yeah, that's it. Thank you, and I think we can finish the screen share.